So we're coming back and we're on this topic about productivity, and I'm giving you some specific keys to productivity that I really want us to focus in on today, because I believe that your life is getting ready to expand. You're about to go into supernatural realms that you didn't even understand you could walk in if you take these principles and apply them. And so as I was thinking about this subject of productivity, I thought of a scripture in Genesis 26. Genesis 26 is really all about the life of Isaac, the son of Abraham, who is considered the father of faith, right? So Isaac is a powerful example of someone who took what they had and did something with it. He's actually the epitome of someone who was productive in the face of hard circumstances. And that's important to know, because right now, the world we're living in is really in a spin. Things are changing. So much is going on with the economies of nations, not just in our country, but around the world. The world is experiencing birth pangs, earthquakes, all kinds of devastations, but there's also so much good that's happening in the midst of the negative. And I think Isaac is a key example of that, because he was in this place where everything was a famine and everything was dying and it wasn't productive. And he kept digging wells and having those wells taken from him by other people. He finally got to one place, and it says they did not strive with him over that well, right? Isaac dug the last well that he dug, and he named it Rehoboth. Rehoboth means space or room. He said, I named it space or room because God has made room for me. And when you are productive, when you use what God gives you, you just keep on plowing through the hard times. There may be hostility. There may be some arguments that come up with other people, because the enemy doesn't like to see you moving forward in the face of adversity. So you have to be consistent in what you're doing and believe that whatever it is that God is giving you to do, that you have the ability with what he's giving you to cause it to bring forth on another level. In fact, in one scripture talks about Isaac, it says he sowed in the land that he was in, and in the same year he received 100-fold return on his investment of what he had sown. But we're not going to be talking about Isaac today. We're going to be talking about you and I and how it relates to this subject of productivity, coming from the book of Luke, chapter 13. And I really want to lean into this with you, because I think this will be the last session that we're going to spend on the topic of productivity. I want you to get the audiobook. I want you to listen to the day on productivity and begin to really proclaim the prophetic decrees at the end of that chapter. So it's only like a 2 to 3 minute listen, but I want you to take the declarations, and when you get up in the morning, speak those declarations out about yourself. The chapter on productivity. But I'm going to give you this insight from there. Luke chapter 13, verse 6 through 9. I'm going to read it from the New Living Translation because I love this text. It says, Then Jesus told this story. A man planted a fig tree in his garden and came again and again to see if there was any fruit on it. But he was always disappointed. Finally, he said to his gardener, I've waited 3 years and there hasn't been a single fig. Cut it down. It's just taking up space in the garden. The gardener answered, Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another year. Let's pause right there. Have you ever felt like you've been trying and trying and trying to be productive and to get ahead and to move forward out of that place where you've been? You're trying to see some results from all of your hard labor, and it doesn't seem like you're producing very much. You might feel like this fig tree. 3 years you've been hard at it and you see nothing. And other people may be looking at you going like, they will never do anything. We've been watching them for 3 years. But listen to what the gardener said. It's important because the gardener is not just an owner of a field or a vineyard. He is someone who's used to handling trees, and he knows what this specific tree needs. I think that's why he interceded. It says, the gardener answered, "Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another year, and I'll give it special attention and plenty of fertilizer. If we get figs next year, fine. If not, then you can cut it down." Now you have to know the nature of the fig tree. When you look at how fig trees grow, it says that fig trees take somewhere between 3 to 5 years before they produce a full batch of figs. So anything that's on the tree before that is not really the full fruit of the fig tree. Generally speaking, it takes at least 3 to 5 years for it to start producing. So here, this owner of the field is coming. Year 1, he's expecting figs. Year 2, he's expecting figs. Year 3, he's expecting figs. He's expecting something at a time when it's not ripe. But it took someone with knowledge of the fig tree to say to him, "Have a little mercy." Notice he didn't say, "This is a terrible fig tree. I don't know why it's not producing. All of the rest of the fig trees out here are producing." This gardener knew that this was a young tree and it was not time yet for it to produce figs. I want to key in on this point. You may be in a place in life where it's really time for you to get some fertilizer. Let someone else begin to help dig around the ground of your life and fertilize you a little bit. Go to school, get your education, find a powerful pastor, someone, a mentor, people that are productive, someone who can look at your life and say, "Hey, let me help you with this. I know you don't understand that." Educate yourself, get some information. Begin to allow yourself to be nurtured so that you're ready when it's time to produce. And during that space, you may have people who expect more of you. Don't be so critical of yourself. It takes time. The fig tree producing figs, it produces figs when it's mature. So sometimes you might be looking at someone else's life and they have these big fig leaves and they have all these figs and other people are enjoying the figs at their party. And you're going like, "Man, I wish I had that. I don't know why I work just as hard as he does." But maybe he's been at this a while. Maybe his life is at a place of maturity where now he's enjoying the figs or the fruit from the tree that he's allowed to be cultivated. Now, if you know anything about cultivating a tree, some gardeners would tell you, when you begin to, whether it's a garden or whether it's a tree like this fig tree, he says in the King James Version, it says, "Let me dig it. Let me put some fertilizer in it." He had to dig around that tree, probably get some of those weeds out. And it says that a fig tree needs a whole lot of sunlight, like 6 to 8 hours of sunlight every day. It needs to be out in the sun. It needs good rain. Its roots go so deep that it finds the water source. That's why it's very hard to get rid of a fig tree, because it has deep roots and it has taken time to develop and to grow and mature. You need that if you're going to be productive. You need grace to grow. You need space to grow. Fig trees, it says, they need a lot of space between them because it's not going to be popping up something small and little. A fig tree is going to be, it's going to be massive. The trunk of a fig tree, the fig tree is going to produce something that requires it to have space in its mature state. So this is what I want to say to you about this topic. This gardener sees and knows something about the fig tree that the owner obviously doesn't know, because he's coming in year 1 expecting fruit that will only develop in year 4. So don't spend so much time listening to your critics, because they don't understand your process. They have no idea how long the gardener has been fertilizing the tree of your life. They have no comprehension of the pain you have experienced, because digging around that tree is prickly. It can cost you some pain. You don't know what will happen if you endure the process, the fertilization process. This tree needed some nurturing. It needed to be dug around. It needed some weeds moved from around it. It needed someone to look at it and see its potential, its worth, and its value. God, in this season, will give you people who can see your potential, your worth, and your value. And you need to allow those people to be the ones who are digging around in your life. Don't let any and everybody start digging around your life and fertilizing you. It needs to be people who understand your worth and value and who are willing to give you mercy and grace. That's what this gardener did. Verse 8, it says, the gardener answered, "Sir, give it one more chance. Leave it another year, and I'll give it special attention and plenty of fertilizer. If we get figs next year, fine. If not, then you can cut it down." I think that gardener had looked at that fig tree long enough to know it just needs a little more time. It needs one more chance to show what it can produce. And while we're on this topic of being productive and productivity, giving you keys to productivity, one of those keys is patience. You need to be patient with yourself. Be patient with your process. And I know sometimes it's hard because you want those figs. You might be looking at somebody else and they not only have figs, they've learned how to take those figs and now they have fig preserves. Their stuff is all on the shelves at Cracker Barrel. They got fig jars of stuff. They have all this stuff that they produce from the figs in their life. And it looks like, man, if I could just get like one little fig under this leaf, that would be great. But you got to give yourself time, because you don't want the figs on your life to be plucked too soon. Good figs take at least 3 to 5 years to be produced. So you want to give yourself that space so that when we go to pulling the figs off of your tree, expecting to consume it, it gives us satisfaction, not bitterness. Ooh, that's hard. That's one of those prickly things that have to be dug out of your life. Bitterness. Sometimes in the process of waiting, you can become bitter instead of better. You have to be wise enough and have people in your life who are wise enough to lovingly point out, give you a little nurturing and say, because you were hurt as a kid, someone did something really awful to you. I hear a little bit of bitterness in your voice. Just in the way you interact. Looks like you might still have some resentment. Maybe there's a little bit of intimidation. Maybe that fear has come because you failed at something and you're afraid to try again. This is what nurturing does for you. Nurturing is not just, taking you like a little baby, putting you over the shoulder and burping you a little bit. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the process of maturity that is required for you to be able to produce the fruit that is necessary. Notice that this Lord was coming back expecting. So in all of the scenarios and stories that we've talked about from the Bible, you get an understanding from the story that Jesus is telling here that there's always someone observing your fruit. And have you ever had anyone observing your tree while you're in the fertilization process? I think I gave an example in one of the sessions about how I was at an airport not too long ago. And something happened at that airport that left me angry for hours. I was not a happy camper. And anyone who looked at my face could see that I was not a happy camper. By the end of the day, I had to finally learn how to release the situation to God, and He gave me peace. Anyone observing my life just in that snapshot of a moment would not have seen a fully grown, mature fig tree. But aren't you glad that God doesn't just look at us in captions and in moments, but he sees the entirety of our lives? And he knows that once we yield to his process, no matter what happens in the pruning stage, if we endure, he will have figs, fruit that remains. That's your life. Isn't it something that fig tree produced in the 4th year? Because we don't hear anything about it being cut down. We know that the process worked for the fig tree, and the process will work for you. If you need nurturing, if you need fertilization, allow that to happen in your life. I want to encourage you to go over to Audible, go over to Amazon, get a copy of the audiobook, or download a copy of the soft cover. Make sure that you get this day on productivity really working in your heart. You will be blessed by it.